Hey kids, welcome to Money in the Morning. Woohoo! It's Money in the afternoon if you're on the East Coast, but that's your problem. It's Money in the Morning here, 11:03 a.m. Say hi, Richie. There's Richie pretending he's working. He's going to keep his head down and act like he's working the whole time, which is awesome. Today's mug, Zion National. I've been loving this Zion National Park mug. How many times have I used this the last few weeks? I got mugs now getting no love because I keep going back to the well on this mug. And if you missed it before, shame on you, by the way, for missing one of these. What are you thinking? But on the inside, check this out. It's a map of the park and a little bit of coffee down at the bottom. So this is going to be for next Tuesday's show. And Richie and I have something very epic planned for you. Very excited. And if you're here on Facebook watching us make the sausage live, mind-blowing. It's going to be amazing. All right. Level is good. From Moe's. Awesome. I know there's not much in it, Lori, so we're good. So good stuff. This is going to be, this is my favorite Money in the Morning ever. It's always good to have serious headlines, but it's even better when you get to mess around. And that's what we're going to do, because it's all about entertaining me. If I'm entertained, then, you know, who cares about anybody else, right? All right, here we go. By the way, you might be able to hear the carpet guys Mom's got in the other room. I just realized what song that is. That's the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is a fine 70s song about Lake Superior. The homeland, as we call it in Michigan. No, we don't call it homeland. But it's freezing cold up there. Like when you're from southern Michigan, you're like, you kidding me? Upper Peninsula? I'm not. I'll go there in July. That'll be fine. It's beautiful up there. All right. Here we go, kids. Let's do this. This is going to be for next Tuesday. Live from the home of all financial podcasts, Texarkana, Texas. It's the Stacky Benjamin Show. Hey, kids. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. Did I just say it's Stacky Benjamin Show? I did, didn't I? You're not listening to the Stacky Benjamin Show. You're listening to Money in the Morning. And I am Joe Saul-Sehy. At least I got one of the two of those right. And I'll tell you what else I got right. We've got two great headlines that are right on for you. The first one comes to us from the Motley Fool, and it's 3 signs you might need to go back to work during your retirement years. And we're not going to leave this with only retirees. So if you're not retired yet, hang on, because it might be a money problem. We might have to talk about that a little bit. And our second headline might be the best headline we've ever had here. Big news from a pop band that we're going to share with you today. You're going to tell your friends around the water cooler. It's going to be amazing. Fantastic second headline. And then, as if that's not enough, it's really not enough, we're going to put those two together for a big idea that's going to blow your mind at the end of today's show. Speaking of blow your mind, today's show is brought to you by Tiller. If you're a spreadsheet geek like Mom, she loves her spreadsheets. Don't give her any of those apps. She needs the spreadsheet. How about pressing the easy button on your spreadsheet, though? Still keep things customizable like you like it and have all your relevant information downloaded and still completely private. How do you do that? It's called Tiller. Head to stackybenjamins.com/Tiller, and guess what's going to happen? You'll end up getting the awesome Tiller experience, and you'll tell them we sent you. They send us a little thank you for sending you their way. So thanks to Tiller for supporting Stacky Benjamins, and thanks to you for listening to the show. Let's get on with it, kids, because you've got places to go, and we got some awesome, and I'm talking especially our second headline, super awesome headlines.
Hello, darlings. And now, it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's Headlines.
Could I build up a headline more? I don't know that I could build up a headline more than I built up the second headline. We've tried a little bit. I don't know if I said this already. The second headline, amazing. Fantastic headline. The second one. First one, not so bad either, so let's do that one. This one comes to us from The Motley Fool, written by Maury Bachman. 3 signs you should go back to work after retirement. I tried to come up with some funny ones, but for today, we'll just stick with the real ones. Why don't we? Many Americans look forward to retirement, this piece says, especially after a lifetime of hard work. But what happens when you retire and find that it's not exactly what you thought it would be? What if you're just not thrilled with your new lifestyle, despite the fact that you initially thought you'd love it? If that's the case, you might consider returning to work, even after you've called it quits. Here are a few signs that this is the right move for you. Number 1, you're depleting your nest egg more rapidly than expected. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to do something a little different today. We're going to get crazy. We're going to stop here and we're going to talk about each of these in order, because this also isn't just for retirees. So number 1, I would see people that would go into retirement and we'd agree on what their lifestyle is going to be. They're going to spend, let's say, $3,000 a month or $4,000 a month, whatever it is. We get back together 6 months in and they're blowing that budget up. And by blowing it up, I don't mean in a good way. I mean, they are blowing it out of the water. They're spending $5,000, $5,500. They're accessing that money out of the IRA more quickly. And what's bad is if you do that in the early years of retirement, you blow the budget. Well, there's a compounding effect, because the money that you're spending in your 80s, your 90s, later in life, that money's the interest that you're still earning from those early years. And if the nest egg is too small and you're not earning that interest, it's a compounding reverse effect, right? There's a compounding effect of saving early, and there's also a compounding effect of taking the money out too early. So we don't want to do that. So if early on you find out, you know what, the nest egg's going bye-bye way too quickly, time to find some other sources of income. It also is the case if you find out you're not saving enough. So even if you're not retired and you're listening to this, you're like, what does that have to do with me? Here's what it has to do with you. If there's a goal that you really want to meet and you're not saving enough, sometimes it is a cutback problem. But you know what I found? A lot of the time it's an income problem. And if you can find a way to increase your income, either with a side hustle, we had Harry Campbell on talking about driving for Uber during your downtime, right? Lots of different things that you can do. The biggest thing you can do, by the way, studies show, and expert after expert that we've had on the Stacking Benjamin show has said, ask your boss for a raise. Your boss doesn't give you a raise often because you didn't ask for it. So that's the number 1 thing to do. But if you're sure that the raise isn't coming, lots of side hustle stuff. Listen to our friend Nick Loper's podcast, Side Hustle Nation. Good stuff there. Number 2, you're lonely. This, kids, this is a big one. And this is one to watch out with for older relatives. So, and I'll give you a very personal example. My dad, early on retirement, he retired very early in his early 50s from General Motors. And when he retired from General Motors, all of his friends were still working. So he started hanging out with guys who were 10 years older than him. He wasn't lonely, but he was suffering from something that a lot of early retirees suffer from, which is aches and pains. All of a sudden, my dad has all these aches and pains. But you also find a lot of people become lonely. You know, I work from the basement. Richie, who's behind me, for those of you who aren't watching us on Facebook, Richie's sick of me talking to him. He's sick of me singing to him. I was singing the Erie Canal song earlier, and it drives him crazy. You know what? If Richie weren't here, I'm sure I'd be lonely. Richie's like, he preferred if I were lonely. But that's a whole different podcast. If you're lonely, you got to find something to do. And maybe you're not working just for the income. Maybe you're working for the camaraderie. Maybe you're working to be a part of something. And there's something powerful about being a part of something. I saw a study recently about people living in a long-term care facility. And in a long-term care facility, you know, usually it's a one-way street out. The average person is in a long-term care facility for 2.5 years, and it's not because of the fact that they're coming out. It's because they don't live any longer. They gave a certain number of people in this long-term care facility plants to take care of. And they told them, you can't let this plant die. And you know, it was amazing. The people that had the plants, the people that had to take care of the plants lived far longer than the people that were just left to their own devices. All of a sudden they had a responsibility. They had something that they were a part of. They had a big mission to their life. Even one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey, we quote him all the time, right? Keep the end in mind. I love that quote. Sharpen the saw. Another great thing I learned from Stephen Covey. So much I learned from Stephen Covey. He's got a great book about families and families that perform. And you know what's funny is he talks about a mission statement. And I think if you've got a mission statement on your life, you're far more likely to get what you want. So number 2, you're lonely. Number 3, very much like that, is you're bored. It's a frightening statistic that retirement increases the likelihood of suffering from clinical depression by 40%, but it also makes sense. If you're used to a career that keeps you busy and go from that to days on end with nothing to do, you're apt to grow restless and start feeling worthless. You know what? That's also not limited to retirees. I know from working with families for 16 years that people get way, way, way bored in the job. They don't like the people they work with, and your life is too short. Your life is way, way, way too short for that to happen. So don't waste your life doing something where you're bored. Don't sit around and let yourself just get more and more lonely, and certainly do the checkups on your financial plan. And that's our big takeaway from a financial standpoint. There's a reason why I would meet with my clients twice a year when I was an advisor. And you don't need a financial advisor. Just set a thing. That's the technical term, right? Set a calendar time slot. Make yourself an appointment with your money twice a year for a checkup. Where am I at with my money? And do I have enough to last? Am I saving fast enough to reach the goal? And if I'm in retirement, am I spending money slow enough that it'll last forever? And by the way, if it's going to last way, way, way too long and there's stuff I want to do that I'm not doing, maybe I go out and do that stuff. So good stuff there. All right. That's our takeaway. That's piece number 1. That's the good piece. I got to tell you guys, awesome piece coming up at number 2. I think I'm overselling it, but let's say hello to our friends with us here on Facebook. We do this live every day in front of a studio audience on Facebook. We've got Daryl here checking in from Moe's. Hey, Daryl. Lori's here. Lori's talking about my coffee. We have a different coffee mug most days, but I'm going with this Zion National Park mug that has a cool map of the park on the inside. I never saw it before. I didn't need a new mug. I've got plenty of mugs for my Money in the Morning show appearances, and I still bought another one. I handed them my wallet just because it had a map on the inside of the mug, and I've never seen that before. I guess I'm pretty easy that way when it comes to mugs. Our friend Dan is here with us. Jamie's here. Daryl says, I made the mistake of taking from my 401k for a home purchase. That's going to hurt later. Oh, yes. And you know what's funny, Daryl? At least it was in a home purchase. I might be able to justify that. I don't love it, but I might be able to justify that. I often saw people buy a car by ripping money out of their 401k plan. And you look at the 10% penalty, the interest you pay, do the rule of 72 on how much money that would have made over time. And usually it was a car that you'd end up having a car payment on. And it just kills me. At least a house will usually appreciate, right? Paul or Shireen is here with us, said, I prefer not to have or be a 90-year-old Uber driver. Yeah, it would be fun. What's that joke about grandpa passing away peacefully in his sleep, but the other 3 people that were riding in the car with him were screaming as he went over the cliff? Bad joke. But Dan says he preferred not to have a 90-year-old Uber driver. I don't know, man. Yeah, I probably not. All right, let's get back to this. Our amazing second headline. And this is an incredible second headline. You guys ready for this? Big news. I know we've talked to you in the past about some little things like 500-point drops in the stock market and what to think about it. We've defined some terms for you, like what's gross domestic product, what's the S&P 500, what's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Those are fine, but they're really minor, super minor compared to the stuff that I learned yesterday. Yesterday, I learned that the band Weezer, this is huge. The band Weezer did something that I completely didn't expect. And Weezer, please don't sue me, because I'm going to make you a little more famous by the 3 people that listen to Money in the Morning. Check this out, everybody. Check out what Weezer did. You hear that? Do you know that song?
I hear the drums echoing tonight, but she hears only whispers of some quiet.
This is the most amazing thing. Weezer redid the song Africa. It's incredible. It's like as if Toto doing it in the 80s was phenomenal. I mean, that was amazing. But the fact that Weezer redid Africa, and by the way, when a lot of bands do covers, like they'll redo the cover, they'll put their own spin on it, which usually I like in a cover. But how do you make the song Africa better? Weezer said, we don't make the song Africa better. You know what we do? We redo it exactly the way that it is. Because you can't make this song better. I mean, let's go back. Just in, I know you need more of this. So listen to this.
Along the way, hoping to find some old forgotten words to reach in melody.
You know this is gonna be in your head the rest of the day, don't you?
As if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you.
Just straightforward Africa. And you're wondering, Joe, I know you're wondering. Well, that is great news, Joe. That's probably the best news I've heard in the last, I don't know, week, month, year, 10 years, probably 10 years. What does this have to do with my money? What this has to do with your money is something really big, which is check out Weezer, this band that's done so many cool things already. They go and they do this thing that you completely didn't expect. And at this point, Weezer has enough money. I'm sure they have. I don't manage their money, but I'm fairly sure that the guys in Weezer are going to be okay for the rest of their life. Don't even have it on good authority, just my gut. They have enough cash, but they did this thing that's fun. And what's fun is probably going to bring them even a lot more cash. And when you can meld fun and more cash together, that's phenomenal. Now, a lot of people take this and they go, hey, you know what, Joe? I like that advice. I'm going to go do something fun. But I'll tell you where the fun comes from. The fun here comes from starting off with a system and getting the basics right. Because if you look at the history of the band Weezer, which I don't have time to go into today, but it's phenomenal. The founder of the band went to Harvard and actually designed Weezer as a project, as a business. Weezer was designed as a business. And when you design a business, you look at all the pieces of the business and define how they're going to make money, right? There's a lot of rock bands, people get together and they just roll along. That's not Weezer. Weezer actually did something that I love, which is they E-mythed rock and roll. You're like, what the hell's E-myth, Joe? You're bringing this thing at the 11th hour, E-myth? My favorite book about business, not only my favorite book, the guy that when I was with American Express, the longtime CEO, there was a guy named Ken Chenault. Ken Chenault says the E-Myth is his favorite book about business. I have a business right now with just a few of us. I've run a few businesses during my lifetime. The E-Myth is easily the best book about business, but it's also a great book about personal finance. Because when you do the little things, right? When you have the little foundation right, you stay out of debt. You, number 2, have a cash reserve. Number 3, you invest with the end in mind. Then you can sit back and you can say to yourself, how can I plus this? How can I do things that are way, way, way fun? And I see people go do the fun and they haven't done it yet, right? They take a trip to Disney, completely on debt. I don't want to do that. Trip to Disney can be fun. But Weezer started off with the E-Myth. How do I build a business? How do I check all the boxes? And then how do I flip and bring Africa back? How great is that? Imagine if you were doing that. I think that's so cool. So that's our big second takeaway. E-Myth Your Life. All right, we're going to take these two headlines here in a second. We're going to fuse these two together into a big idea. What is the big idea going to be? I'm going to get to that in just a second. But I have to once again talk about my favorite spreadsheet app, Tiller. If you're somebody like my mom that absolutely loves spreadsheets, you don't want that app, Clarity Money, Mint, Money Lion, one of those apps that kind of takes it all and makes it easy. No, you need the spreadsheet. Well, guess what? You can have the spreadsheet and have the easy button all in one place. It's called Tiller. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller. And what you get are these customizable ways to manage your money. And you also get templates. There's a Stacking Benjamins template over at Tiller, which is the way that I would teach people to manage their money. But there's many different templates at Tiller. Design your own, start with your own, and press the easy button. You don't have to refill in how much all your accounts are worth, how much money you're spending. You can take your bank, take your investment accounts, have those all downloaded into Tiller. It's all at stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller. And if you use that link, you also help the show. So thanks to everybody who's done that. All right. Our two big takeaways. Takeaway number one today was whether you're a retiree or you're still working, these ideas of checkups to know if you're saving enough or if you're spending it down too quickly, super important. Schedule those. And then number two, we learned from Weezer bringing back Africa. Huge news. Don't we have to play it again? I think Richie, do we got to play it again? We got to. Yeah, I think we have to. So listen to this.
I know that I must do what's right. Sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti.
By the way, thanks to Lonely Planet for introducing me to the fact that this song came back. And it's going to be in your head all day. You can thank me later. For having that song in your head. But we take those two. The big lesson from Weezer was E-Myth Your Life. Get the foundation in place. Get the basics right. And once you have the basics right, then like a master, then you could start experimenting. I mean, when you look at the great chefs, and I love shows about chefs, the great chefs know the basics. So they know which rules they can break. Weezer's breaking a huge rule. If Weezer was a nobody and redid Africa, who cares? But a lot of people know Weezer, so now they redo Africa, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's a big enough deal that it's on Money in the Morning. That's probably the Weezer's going to be retweeting all day that we talked about them. I'm very sure. But when we look at this, it's all about when to break the rules, but you got to know the rules. And you got to follow the rules first to know which ones are breakable, don't you? And that's why I love this idea of the E-Myth. So E-Myth Your Life. But taking the two of those together, I think our big lesson is today, guys, financial planning isn't about the numbers. I know financial planning is a lot of numbers. It's about the fun. It's about making more fun. And people look at these financial constraints and they go, man, you're making things worse for me. You're making it difficult. A bunch of money nerds talking about the numbers. But the more you get into financial planning, the more you realize that the numbers are just a heartbeat. Sharon Lechter, who was on our Stacking Benjamin show, she's the not so famous co-author, not as famous. She's pretty famous, but not as famous as the other author of that phenomenal book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Sharon Lechter is a CPA. And when I interviewed her, she said, you know what I like about the numbers? They tell a story. The numbers are the story. And if you're retired and the money's going away quicker than it should go, it tells you where the story should go or where the story's headed that you don't want it to go. It's the difference between a comedy or a tragedy, right? And it's the same as if you're working. If you schedule those checkups, it's going to be great. And then on the other side, you can start doing stuff that's fun because you know the numbers. Later on, you can be the one making your own Africa moment. All right, that's going to do it for today, kids. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, everybody on Facebook for hanging out with us. So fun today. Congratulations to Weezer, by the way, for redoing that awesome song. Sorry, you're going to have that in your head all day. Go stack some Benjamins, everybody. Bye-bye.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Seligman's has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.
All right. You didn't expect that, did you? Admit it. You didn't expect that. It was so awesome. Dan, I'm with you. I heard they redid that. I've been telling everybody all day. It is probably the most important thing that's ever happened to me was finding out that Weezer redid that. We are looking at with the guys from Choose FI today. We are going to be planning a joint meetup in Philly. And I don't know if I think I might have said that yesterday. But for those of you that were here yesterday, if you're in the Philadelphia area, looks like joint Choose FI and Stacking Benjamins meetup the day before the Podcast Movement Conference, which means we'll probably get a bunch of other podcasters there too. We're going to try to get a bunch of other podcasters there. So there's other podcasts that you like, financial podcasts especially. I hope that we'll have them there. I know Rocky Lavani is in that area. And the Richer Soul podcast is a great show. So we've got quite a few people. I know that my hilarious friend Gwen from the Fire Drill podcast will be there, I think. So pretty funny. All right. Awesome. Elvia, that's funny. Yeah. By the way, today's podcast, I got a note from somebody earlier saying that they didn't know that Paula could drop F-bombs like she did on today's show. That was pretty funny. And having Mr. Wealthhound with us today, it was pretty awesome. I got to say that was one of the funnier, like when we're recording those roundtables. Sometimes it's kind of funny sometimes, but oh my God, we were laughing like crazy recording today's Stacking Benjamin show. Like I was once I heard that Africa was being remade. All right, guys, have a fantastic weekend. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.